This is an ad. You're hearing this ad on Jake Landau's podcast. Would you like to put an ad in this place? Email ads@jakelandau.ca and talk about ad rates to put your words in my mouth. Thank you. It is Sunday, November 16th, and it's getting pretty late with Jake Landau. Folks, we have another return guest for you. He's a long return guest. It's the last time we had him on would have been April for our special 420 episode on April 20th. It was a fun time, and it's great to have him back. His name is Matthew Kercher. I call him Matt instead of Matthew, but it's technically fully Matthew. He's a political activist. He's a commentator, and he's here to talk a bit about the BC Green Party and also a bit about the Cowichan ruling, which has a few people in BC in a tizzy. So, Matt, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Jake, thanks for having me.
No, it's great to have you on the show. I'm glad to have you back on. I have been meaning to have green people back on the show again recently, and the Greens are doing a bit better provincially than they are federally in BC, I would say. But yeah, on the federal front, it's back to just Elizabeth May. That, yeah. Yeah,
that one in Kitchener really hurt.
I know. It's like It's especially because the party was stretching and growing beyond her, and now it feels like it's been dragged like 10 years backwards. Like, where do you see things going with the federal party for the Greens right now?
I mean, it's tough, right? Like, first things first, they can't vote for this budget.
Right.
That's got to be like step number one. They can't vote for this budget. They can't be seen as what the NDP was seen as, which is just being an attachment to the Liberals.
And I would argue that's why, even though it may cause the NDP some trouble, they can't vote for it either.
Yeah, no, they can't vote for it.
And it's funny because I have been musing about how they should try and run like a kind of like holding pattern campaign to like renominate most of your old candidates if there's a snap election and try and just get as many of the ridings as you can back. Like, yeah. And now I see that the NDP are apparently actively considering exactly that. So either great minds think alike or they're listening to my show, in which case, hi, Don Davies.
I totally agree. I think I don't think there's any reason for really any federal party at this point to vote for the Liberal budget.
Especially the Greens. It's a transparently anti-environmental budget. So
absolutely.
And I know Elizabeth May said, well, she's willing to negotiate, but she won't vote for it as stands. And I'm like, okay, but hypothetically they could negotiate, but it would just be changing the entire thing. Like, they're not going to negotiate 100% off of what they've committed to.
You're not going to be able to negotiate away the major infrastructure projects that Carney wants to follow through on, like the pipelines, like LNG. You're not going to be able to negotiate away.
And some of the infrastructure projects that are being highlighted would be good for the environment. High-speed rail.
Some of them are great.
High-speed rail would be incredible because it should be a bigger focus, frankly, than things like more fossil fuel extraction, because high-speed rail would last the next 100 years and fossil fuel extraction won't last the next 20.
Exactly. Yeah. And we do need to shift that focus, but that's not something that this government seems interested in. It seems more interested in doubling down on the past, doubling down on that fossil fuel extraction. They're going to throw a couple things in there for guys like you and me, right? The high-speed rail line.
And they'll throw in mention of nuclear because they know, but not even though it moves at a snail's pace. And I'm like, if we can move on nuclear at the same speed we moved on fossil fuels, we would already have solved climate change.
And that's something that the Greens, moving forward, need to readjust on as well. They need to become pro-nuclear. They need to be a pro-nuclear party.
I saw a tweet literally like an hour or two ago where someone is like, the problem with nuclear is that you have to find a place to store all this waste as opposed to fossil fuels where we can safely keep it in the atmosphere in our lungs. Because it's like this. Folks, if you aren't aware at home, the ash from coal is radioactive. So, like, I would argue that nuclear is far safer than current fossil fuels on the basis of a radioactive solid you can put in, like, a lead cask and then shove in a mountain is way easier to deal with than radioactive air that we breathe.
What's the one thing Canada has a lot of? Land.
Yeah.
We have a lot of space to put nuclear waste.
We could even make money trying to store it for other countries, to be honest.
Exactly.
Like,
but
and we've gotten better at processing nuclear waste to accelerate its radioactive decay, so that, like, for folks, again, if you're unaware, a lot of the time you can put spent fuel into a reactor, and while you won't really get much energy out of it, you can make its radioactive half-life a lot shorter. So, like, this has already solved problems, and I do wish that we hadn't spent as much time fear-mongering about the clear main baseload solution. We need solar as well, obviously, but solar I picture more on top of buildings to reduce people's dependence on baseload power overall.
And I think a little bit of that that fear honestly comes from kind of just Cold War hangover, right? Like, you think Chernobyl, and people think, like, when they think nuclear, that's what they think of.
It's like Chernobyl. I don't blame anyone in Japan for having feelings about nuclear power and nuclear energy, just on the basis Japan probably has the most traumatic experience with nuclear anything on the history of the world. So it's like, and also they do live, like, in a very tectonically active, like, there's a lot of seismic activity there. So, like, I get it. Like, there's still ways to make it work there, but I'm not going to be pushy there. Japan is where you want to do, like, offshore wind, solar. Like, that's a great place where to try and push those forward, knowing the complications around nuclear.
Well, and take BC, for example. BC is a great comparable in that sense, right? Where we have a very active tectonic plates underneath us here, too. We're waiting for the big one. We have been for the last 50 years. But there are a ton of other energy options in BC. We don't utilize geothermal at all in BC. We're one of the only places on the Pacific Ring of Fire that doesn't utilize geothermal power.
Yeah.
We don't utilize tidal power. We are unique in the sense that we have fjords, unlike anywhere else in the world other than Norway, that are uniquely designed or uniquely can be uniquely utilized to generate tidal power.
Yeah, not designed, unless we're going creationist here.
Designed is the wrong word, as I realize that.
An intelligently designed fjord.
Yes. They can be uniquely utilized, though, to generate that tidal power, and that's something that we're not doing. And I think that's something that the federal Greens need to speak more on is, yes, we want to move away from fossil fuels, but you need to speak on how you do that as well, because it's a very abstract concept to a lot of people.
And in Ontario, Ontario is a great comparison point for BC, just because I think more than 50% of our electricity comes from nuclear baseload now. And like my younger people don't really remember it, but I remember smog days. I remember when you could not see the sky or even see like 50 feet in front of you. And like, I think people forget that, like, nuclear, for all the controversy about the gas plants under the McGuinty government, like, the truth of it is we have cleaner air to breathe in Ontario because we switched over to nuclear power. And I don't know if you can necessarily call nuclear a green source of energy. It's not renewable exactly. Like, it does.
No.
But it's far more manageable, and I would definitely call it safe. Like, I would actually say I feel safer inside a nuclear power plant than I do in normal Ontario traffic in a car.
Well, when people often talk about reducing emissions, right? They talk about how are you going to reduce emissions without, getting off gas? Like, we're going to need to still build fossil fuel infrastructure because we're still going to need gas even if we're trying to get off emissions, right? Well, why don't we look at nuclear as that interim step? If we need to be investing in non-renewables right now, let's at least invest in non-renewables that aren't going to kill us.
Like, in the one that we know will have increased demand, where we have uranium mines in Canada. We're really lucky that we don't need to get uranium from other countries.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, we're really well positioned for this.
I
Very,
know.
very well positioned for this. And we seem to not be willing to move on it because I think because
Or
there's not
not
really a
with
federal
enough
party
speed.
willing.
In
Yeah, and there's not
Ontario,
really.
we are moving on it. The credit where credit's due, the Ford government does seem to like nuclear, and Stephen Lecce has moved on from terrorizing the school system as
Oh,
Minister of Education to somehow helping society and getting nuclear power moving quicker. So
I hear that name and a shiver goes down my
I
spine.
know it's like I'm happy with what he's doing right now. If he can just keep doing that and nothing else, then l'chaim.
But yeah, like, just it's really frustrating that it seems like sometimes the only federal party really talking, or provincial party for that matter, really talking about nuclear is the Conservatives. Um,
I hate when
that
these
just
things get weirdly politically polarized for no
Yeah,
reason. Kind of like in Toronto for a while, how streetcars were left wing and subways were right wing. And that, like, what are you doing? Like, I entirely blame Jennifer Keesmaat for that. Like, speaking of British
yeah.
Columbia, like, I remember, I keep mocking her for this. I'll mock her until the day we all die for this. But like when she's like elevated rail destroys communities,
Oh,
and I'm like, Vancouver might have something to say to you about
yeah.
that.
Vancouver has Canada's premier rapid transit system.
You have like 80
Like the
kilometers of
SkyTrain.
fully automated like metro. A lot of it's elevated, some of it's buried in really high density
Yeah,
areas. But
yeah.
like in areas where they're building apartments after the line comes up, like where they're expanding out now, it's all like elevated above
Oh
ground
yeah,
because it just
and
makes
it's
sense.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's fine. Like,
Yeah.
there's no problem
No,
with
it's
it.
great.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had much experience riding the SkyTrain. I
I
have. It's
have.
it's
I've
great.
been in Vancouver. Literally, I loved it because I realized as I was walking down the stairs and one of the trains was about to leave, I realized I didn't have to run down like I would in Toronto because the next one was going to be there in just 2 minutes.
Yep.
So, like, being able to walk at a leisurely pace and just go on public transit without consulting a schedule, knowing 2 minutes to the next one at worst, like that. And now, to be fair, it'll branch out to 5 minutes if you're going to like the tail end around the airport. But like for the vast majority of the line, like before that little two
Yeah.
station branch at the end, like
Well, the thing is though is like like we have the SkyTrain in Vancouver, and like you say, you have to wait maybe 5 minutes or something like that for a train. Big deal. Um, the rest of the province, there's nothing.
yeah,
So,
oh yeah.
I grew up waiting 45 minutes to an hour for a bus. So like, I just that comment from
And that's
Jennifer
the
about the
thing. If we're
elevated
going to
rail is
take
just, oh,
environmentalism and climate change seriously, then you need to actually be making high density public transit
yeah.
available to. It's like it cannot be only in Vancouver. Like,
No, one of the things that I've been talking about for years now is reopening the rail line on Vancouver Island.
I
Vancouver Island's a
I got
population
in a
of
fight about that one because so like I fully agree. And then someone told me that the problem was the Haida there. They don't want to reopen the line. Uh, and I was like, well, I believe in Indigenous autonomy. That is their land. They have the full right to choose to not reopen that train line. Nonetheless, it's a bad idea.
yeah,
That was the nuance. I'm like, it's fully their right. I'm not going to
yeah.
stop them. I'm not going to fight them, but they would be well served by having a train line. Like
Yeah.
they're you get what I mean, right?
That has been the main opposition to it, is Indigenous groups not wanting, because they wanted to put the train line through the exact line that it's already on, because the tracks are already there,
Right.
right?
Just
So they wanted it just to be
reactivate the line.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically rebuild the tracks and reactivate the line. And some of the nations weren't comfortable using the previous route that they had used. My question to that would be, okay, can't we reroute it then? But there
Rerouting
doesn't
means
seem to.
buying new land and stuff.
Exactly.
And
So
that's
there's a lot more capital cost, and that's kind of what seems like it's soured the government on that, because
and
I haven't heard
I'm
about
sure there are
anything from that.
legitimate reasons for why they have problems with the route alignment.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
I have no doubt that Canada Pacific Railway did not consult them adequately in terms of like so fair. Again, it's not my business. It is not my home. It's their land. It's theirs to decide what happens there.
It is active reconciliation.
Yeah.
Finding a way to continue to build this line while respecting the needs and wants of the indigenous nations whose land you're building it on is an act of reconciliation. It annoys me sometimes because it feels like when we get to this point where an act of reconciliation is needed and it takes a little bit of hard work, our governments completely just back off of that. They just,
and then people start to use it as like, oh, they're asking too much of us white people they're asking us for basic consideration. And perhaps that's as good a time as any to pivot on to the big story in BC, the Cowichan land ruling. You want to tell us a bit more about why Conservatives are throwing a shit fit?
Yeah, I was going to say that was a perfect segue. So the Cowichan land ruling, basically what has happened for your listeners who don't know, almost the entirety of BC is unceded land.
Right.
It's not treated land.
Yeah, there was no treaty. There was no legal agreement like the treaties we have in Eastern Canada that constitutionally create this land as part of the Canadian Federation. In BC, it's unceded and essentially in a legal aspect fully stolen.
Yes. So there's a little bit of land in the northeast of BC that's covered by one of the Alberta treaties. There's a little bit of land on the southern end of Vancouver Island that's covered by the Douglas treaties, which actually were not recognized by the provincial government of BC for about 50 or so years after their implementation. But yeah, so the entirety of BC pretty much is unceded territory. So what this means is that BC, for the last, I would say, 50 or so years, has been going through a treaty process with multiple nations across the province. This is so that these nations can get title, land, rights to their land that was essentially stolen from them. What has happened with the Cowichan decision?
And not exactly stolen a long time ago. Like
no. This
would be late 1800s, early 1900s.
This has been happening into the mid 1900s. You can think of it as any time we built a major fossil fuel project, every time we built a major hydro dam in the province.
So we're not talking about like anyone's ancestors. We're talking about like grandma and grandpa.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking, this is active history in the province. And so what has happened is Aboriginal title has been granted to a piece of land in Richmond to the Cowichan tribes because it is their traditional, I believe, fishing lands. And it has been granted to them in continuity with simple land and fee title. So what has happened is Conservatives in the province are looking at this and are now thinking that their property rights are being destroyed, not realizing that the rest of Canada has dual title on almost all its land.
Right. So it's like, like in places already covered by treaty or which already recognize Aboriginal title, it's like no one's coming to take my house.
No. The Cowichan tribes have said as much.
Yeah.
Cowichan tribes have said this, we're not looking to come and take your property. We're not looking to come
Typically,
and take your
these
house.
modern treaties mean compensation for land that they will not still have, correct?
Compensation for land that they won't still have, or land use rights. So they might gain some hunting and fishing rights on the land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like being able to exercise traditional fishing rights, like you've just said, which can happen. Is it fair to say the main problem is a lot of people who exist solely under a system of private property, not understanding that the capitalist framework is not the only legal framework, and that even under a capitalist framework, this land is essentially stolen, and that you do not have a legal right to convert stolen property?
Yes, even under Canada's legal framework, under the Royal Proclamation of 1763, all land that was to be settled had to be treated.
Right.
BC
so even under a settler colonial framework which perpetuated genocide,
we are still acting illegally.
Yeah.
And the conservative movement in BC looks at this and says, yes, good, let's keep doing that. And that is essentially what the problem is that people simply seem to recognize history, and that history is important to the context of today.
Right. They divorce themselves from history as well. They
Yeah.
say, "Oh, it's my dad and your dad did that, so it doesn't involve us." And I'm like,
Or
"But you're
you'll see,
still living in their stolen house."
or for example, you'll see someone who maybe immigrated to this country, right? Maybe their family immigrated here in the 1980s, and they say, "Well, I don't understand why you are trying to take my property," or something like that. And you kind of have to explain to, like, no, you're a settler too. I'm
Yeah.
a settler. You're a settler.
I'm
We're all
not.
settlers.
No, to be
If
fair,
you're not indigenous to this country, you're a settler.
to be fair, I have three categories. There's indigenous and
Okay.
there's settler, but settler,
Colonizer.
yeah, no, settler and
Okay.
colonizer are the same thing for me, but like
Okay.
they fundamentally require a voluntary aspect, a choice to it. But there's a third category we don't seem to talk about much: refugees. Like,
That's fair.
international law is very clear. Countries don't have a choice. You have to take in refugees. So ultimately, the dispute between the colonial system and indigenous rights is immaterial to the fact that even if white people never came to this continent and, say, the eastern part of the continent was ruled by, say, the Iroquois Confederacy, they would still have had a responsibility to take in refugees from global conflicts. Like that. So I think it's fair to put them in a third category, but at the same time, refugees then also have to make a choice when they're there. Do they participate in indigenous cultural institutions, or do they participate in colonial cultural institutions? And as a result, while they're a third category, they can align them. It's complicated, but they can align themselves more than one. It's just, I don't know that I would call people who like come here after the Holocaust like settlers.
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Though I would say their family after them would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I think that's fair. I think that's a fair classification to say that refugees aren't exactly settlers, as refugees often don't necessarily have a choice.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly
it.
It's like that's the whole thing is like you're forced essentially at gunpoint or the threat of violence to like flee your only home. So it's like, and essentially when you are a refugee, you put down permanent new roots usually in the place that hosts you, absent, a very nice thing like, say, in Syria right now, where the dictator finally gets overthrown and people can actually return home for the first time in a decade. You're not a fan of al-Shura?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the ISIS guy. Not ISIS, Al Qaeda.
I take him over Bashar al-Assad.
I might step on some of your listeners' toes here, but I think that the region was probably better served with Bashar staying simply for stability. I have a feeling that we haven't seen the worst of Syria yet.
I don't know, man. He had like secret torture dungeons underground, like a Bond supervillain.
True, but I think
how do you get worse than that?
If we recognize that a state like Saudi Arabia is better stable than unstable, I think you can make the same kind of.
Oh no, I think we should overthrow the government
Syria.
of Saudi Arabia too.
Okay, you're just more interventionist than I am, then far more interventionist.
Just left-wing interventionism for good instead of evil. That's how it works, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I don't want to get too deep into the foreign policy weeds because we will not agree on this, and this will be an interesting podcast to listen to as we get into foreign policy.
A topic for another time, but one final.
You and me will have to talk about Ukraine one day.
I know. One final. Well, I'm sure you enjoyed my Ukraine bit where I talked about how the CBC interviewed a Nazi and then covered it up, like literally covered up the swastika on his arm by blurring it out.
Yeah.
And the only reason any of us noticed is because they fucked up and they didn't apply the blur for a single frame. So I just grabbed the video off YouTube and I did the screenshot. And I'm like, looky here.
It's been a while since they screwed up with something like that, but it got them in the ass again.
But yeah, it's like, I like Ukraine. It's just like, can you not have swastika guys like training the troops? Like, that would be great, homie. But anyway, our final bit in our front half before we move on is on the provincial side of things for the Green Party. The BC Greens have a new leader, Emily Lowen. Is it Lowen? Sorry, I'm
Lowen. Emily Lowen.
My apologies, yeah. Emily Lowen. It will be correct from this point onward. But Emily is 25 years old. She was born in September of 2000, so she's actually just a little bit younger than I am, slightly less than a year. And she's also, I believe, the first Gen Z leader of a major political party in Canada at the provincial level, not the federal level, but in our country, provinces seem to have a shitload of power. So she was endorsed by David Suzuki, which is pretty good bona fides to have for the any Green Party, I would say. And I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about her, about like her policies, and what kind of green is she? Because I know there's like the Tories on bikes, and then there's the eco-socialists.
I am so excited to talk about Emily Lowen because she is the exact kind of green that we need. The Federal Green Party should be looking at what's happening in BC right now and imitate that. Emily Lowen is a devout eco-socialist. She came up in organizing through university. She was a campus organizer. She has done union organizing. Her policy is on point. She has received endorsements, as you said, from people like David Suzuki. She's received endorsements from Zephyr Berman. I don't know if you know who that is or not. She received an endorsement from, I'm blanking right now. Really famous Palestinian scholar.
I was about to say Edward Said, and then I remembered he's dead. Like no, he's not alive.
I'm blanking on it right now, but you can go and find it. No, she's
whenever anyone mentions a Palestinian scholar, I just think Edward Said.
But yeah, no, like she is the exact. She has brought so much energy back into BC politics. Her entire campaign was movement based, was grassroots based. And we actually just had a BC Green AGM. So hopefully once those votes are counted, we've won some of the positions in the party structure as well to help move this forward. But it seems like, as it stands, the two Green MLAs are behind her. That we have
and the BC NDP currently have a thin majority right now. So
yeah,
the Greens aren't exercising as much policy influence as they were back during the confidence and supply agreement period.
No, but they do still have an agreement with the NDP, as the NDP, I believe, has like a single seat majority. So they do often rely on the Greens
because of the Speaker of the House. It cuts it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so but they have more something that a skilled leader can use. It's leverage in the right hands.
Exactly. Yes. And Emily's new at this, so we'll see. Like obviously, time will tell. But personally, just everything I've seen from her so far, she is the next generation of politicians in this country. I would be willing.
Well, now she's the now generation.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I think we're going to see more Emily Lowens moving forward.
Like out of a cloning facility?
No, I just mean like in that mold, right? Like,
no, yeah,
the way she ran her campaign, the policies that she focused on, like her main policies are bringing workers and environmentalists together, which is something that I have been screaming about for years.
And that frequently has not happened because you'll have the NDP pitting labor against environmental policy, especially in BC with things like forestry.
Very much. And the goal kind of now is to change that conversation, is to show people that, hey, you're in forestry, making sure we take care of our forests is good for you too.
Yeah.
Do you want to run through this forest and be out of a job in 10 years? Or do you want to have this job last for the next 100 years and pass it down to your children as well?
You can't keep on being a tree cutter if there are no trees left to cut.
Exactly.
There's a very famous political treatise about this called The War Axe.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it just feels like we've kind of come into a new dawn with the BC Green Party. Like, I was a fan of Sonia Furstenau. She wasn't perfect by any means. No one ever is. But she did good work for the party. She built the party. She definitely expanded it. She pulled it to the left from the Weaver years, thank God. But Emily Lowen is someone that I would expect to see run for the NDP in an unwinnable seat. Like, that's the vibe she brings. She brings someone who is unapologetically left-wing and who wants to better the environment, wants to better the lives for workers in BC, and has a way of mending those two together.
Where do you think she'll run? Because I know she says she's waiting for a good seat to run in, and she's not going to push either of the two MLAs out, which is a smart call.
I agree. Yeah, I don't believe she should push the MLAs out.
I think there's a reduced need nowadays to get yourself in immediately, but you do need to at least be willing to run in the next general.
Yeah, I think she'll probably run in Victoria somewhere. Maybe she'll run in the same seat that Sonia ran in last, Victoria Swan Hill. I believe that's what it was. But she's pretty local. She went to UVic. That's kind of where her locale is. I expect she'll probably run there. The only other place that would really make sense to run might be in Cowichan, because that is Furstenau's old seat. There is a green base in that seat. But in the last redistricting, a lot of the green base that was existing in that seat in Shawnigan Lake was redistricted. So it's a much more orange seat than it was when Sonia ran in it.
And there's no need to make it too more complicated than it needs to be. If Emily has a base in Victoria, both personally for her own brand, as well as a base for the Green Party at large, then it's the place to run.
Yeah, and I think if she can get in somewhere close to UVic, somewhere with a university population, somewhere with a bit of a younger population, that is going to really, really benefit her.
Yeah, especially when it comes to specifically turning out volunteers, getting people to actually knock on doors for you operationally. I see a path for her.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I'm optimistic to see what happens with the British Columbian Greens.
I see a path in the next election to about 4 or 5 BC Green seats. It can happen.
That's reasonable. I mean,
yeah,
I would honestly try and punch for 6 or 7, but that,
we want to punch for 40 is what we want to punch for.
But you want to win.
But if we could retake Cowichan, Emily wins Victoria, and we get a seat in Creston. There's 5 seats.
Alrighty. Well, that will be something to watch for sure. Matthew, thank you so much for this first half here, where we've talked a little bit about federal and provincial Greens and our fun with Indigenous land title in BC that's making all the Tories mad. But folks, don't go anywhere, because we will be back soon after our break with our guest, Matthew Kercher, and our 3 headline topics of the week. See you in a sec. Today's episode of It's Getting Pretty Late with Jake Landau is brought to you by me. Folks, all of my work is available for free with no paywall at jakelandau.ca. But in order to keep writing and recording, I need money, because money is what makes this show go round. So, if you enjoy my content or find it informative, please consider a paid subscription at jakelandau.ca/subscribe. And please leave a 5-star rating on the show in your favorite podcast app, be it Apple, Spotify, or a secret third thing. Thank you, and enjoy the show. And we are back from the break with our 3 headline topics of the week and our guest, Matthew Kercher, a political commentator and political activist, and a bunch of other fun stuff too. Our first story is from CBC News, from Sarah Petz, the prominent legal scholar detained at Canadian border while on his way to a conference on Palestine. Richard Fox says he and his wife were held for close to 4 hours in Toronto. A prominent academic and former United Nations Special Rapporteur, Richard Falk, who worked as a Special Rapporteur for the United Nations Commission on Human Rights on the situation of human rights in the occupied Palestinian territories. He was coming to Toronto with his wife to speak at the Palestine Tribunal on Canadian Responsibility, which is a public forum being held by academics and researchers and activists in order to fully analyze Canadian responsibility and complicity in the genocide of Palestinians by the Israeli state. Richard Falk, he's 95 years old. He's a retired Princeton University professor. He's very esteemed, very well regarded. He is an expert in his field. It has literally been his job for decades to work on the field of human rights, including in Palestine. So of course he was invited to this tribunal upon arrival at Pearson International Airport in Toronto this Thursday with his wife. Border agents confiscated both of their passports and led them into an interview room where they were told they needed to determine whether they were a national security threat to Canada. Thursday, by the way, was in fact his 95th birthday while he was being interrogated by Canadian border officials, this innocent academic who's worked for the United Nations. And the questions he was asked were about his participation in the conference, his involvement in the Israel-Palestine conflict, and his position on Israel. After 4 hours of interrogation, he and his wife were eventually allowed to enter the country. The CBSA refuses to comment because they say people have a right to privacy, so we are not allowed to talk about individual cases, which is some of the really fun stuff they love doing to prevent any journalist from actually asking them about anything they've done ever. And then the Minister of Public Safety said, oh, you should call the CBSA. They're better to talk about it than we are. And I'm like, well, it seems like neither of you are talking about it.
Yeah.
But this is, frankly, it's quite absurd. Independent Senator Yuen Pa Wu said he was contacted by the tribunal's organizers and about this incident, and he contacted the Minister for Public Safety. This is absurd. He and his wife are both eminent experts on international law. They were coming for a conference on international law, and they were interrogated by the Canadian government for what? For being pro-Palestine?
Yeah,
for
it's
thinking Palestinians have the right to live.
Yeah, it's politically motivated, 100%. Like, you've traveled out of the country before. I have traveled out of the country before as well. I've been subject to secondary screening. I don't know if you have, but to be subject to 4 hours of secondary screening in an interview room without your passport, this is politically motivated, 100%.
Well, of course, it's politically motivated. The questions were literally about his politics.
Yeah, and like it's a 95-year-old man. Like, what are we doing? Well, what are we doing?
His words are a threat to the imperial order.
Oh, it's so
that was
frustrating.
Sarcasm, but is it sarcasm? Because that seems to just be it. Like
that's exactly it, right? Like, we've been complaining about this sort of stuff happening entering the U.S. border, right? Since Trump came into office. Canadians have been complaining about like being asked personal questions, political questions, having their phones gone through and stuff like that at the border. We're turning around and doing it. The
last time I tried to cross the border into the United States, the last time I did was before the last presidential election. Even it was in like July last year. Remember when Canada? It was in the Copa America soccer tournament.
Yeah.
So we were playing Argentina in the semifinals. I went down because I'm like, okay, we're not getting any further. I want to see Canada play Messi in Argentina in a giant ass stadium full of people. This is going to be fun. Yeah. And I did have a great time. But like when I was crossing the border, like the fucking like Asian Americans at the border doing the interviews with every single person, they just seemed to not really believe that I wanted to go just watch a soccer tournament. And I'm like, do you want me to pull the jersey out of my bag? Like,
yeah.
Well,
I'm of the opinion.
And that was while Joe Biden was still president, when people thought the Democrats might somehow be able to skate out of it. So it's like some people, you get what I mean?
Yeah.
But so it's like I haven't even tried going since Donald Trump won the election, not even after he swore in, just simply after that day in November, because I knew immediately it was it was going to change. Like,
Yeah,
because
no.
all of those armed jackboot thugs at the border, like, they were waiting for permission. Like,
Yep.
we kind of have a similar dynamic with the people on our border. Like,
And we're following suit. We're following what Trump wants us to do with our border, which means more jackbooted thugs on the border, more detaining of 95-year-old Palestinian activists. Like,
yeah, and this is like this goes exactly to what I've always said for a long time as a staunch internationalist. I've always thought borders themselves are an act of violence.
they are.
Yeah, it's like now I don't mean that in that like Germany should get to Anschluss all their neighbors because borders are an act of violence. Like no, but it's like people should have freedom of movement. The world cannot be cut off from itself. Like
Matt and Jake's anarchist corner here.
Yeah. Well, it's not anarchist. Like you can have like passports,
no, I get what you're saying.
But like the idea of needing a visa to go visit another country rather than just going to the border and they're like, oh, here's your passport. Okay, sir, thank you. Or like my ideal is honestly what they have in the European Union. Like Schengen is one of the greatest accomplishments for world peace in the history of the human race.
I was just going to bring up the European Union and the Schengen zone. That's exactly what it should be like when you're crossing a border. You go, oh, I'm in Germany. Oh, I'm in Poland now. Or, oh, I'm in France. Oh, I'm in Spain now. Like,
can you imagine going back to the era of World War II and telling people you will have Schengen? Like you'll have a day where like Germans and Frenchmen like eagerly cross the border for an afternoon picnic.
You can have Germans and Frenchmen crossing the Maginot Line.
Yeah, like Germany, France, France. Like,
but no, like when we look at, for example, like the U.S.-Mexico border, that is an example of what should not happen.
No,
that is an example of the worst aspects of like border policy. And it seems like right now that's the exact kind of policy we're starting to follow in Canada on the northern border with the U.S.
Right. It's like there are very few borders I think need to be armed and guarded. One of them would be Finland, Russia. Like
North Korea, South Korea.
Yeah, like but like they should be an exception. They should not be the norm. Like and like but back onto like Canada specifically here. Like what Mr. Professor Fox said, it's disappointing that Canada, after having acknowledged Palestinian statehood, would take such a hostile attitude toward a very forthright conference that really explained to a public that hasn't been so well informed the nature of the objections to what Israel is doing. One expects Canada to be a model of free speech and liberal democracy, and it's not as bad as the United States, but it's not as good as I would hope. End quote. Not as good as I would hope feels like a very polite understatement. Like I feel like he's being nice still, and he shouldn't have to be. And I'm like, homie, you're a 95-year-old man and you got taken into a random, like, windowless room and had your passport stolen from you. Like, for one, I would get into an international incident if I was in another country and I'd be happy to do secondary inspection. That's fine. But like, if they tried to take my passport away from me, no. Like, no. I mean, I would get to the point where I might get an arm broken, but that passport is the property of the government of Canada. That is not for a private another country, their government to take away. Like, it has been entrusted to me by my government to prove I am who I say I am. Without that, I'm nobody, and they can send me anywhere.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Without that, you are nobody, and they can send you anywhere. You can't give up your like. I can't believe that we took this guy's passport away from him. That's the like. I understand secondary screening, even if it's not right. I understand that it happens. But the fact that they like locked him in a room and took his passport from him and basically unpersoned him for 4 hours because he's a Palestinian scholar.
I don't think he's Palestinian.
Or sorry, not a scholar of Palestine, I should say.
Right.
But yeah, like it just it's I would say it's frustrating if it wasn't so just like demoralizing.
I mean,
and
it's certainly,
like I say, it seems like we're happy. It seems like we're going the wrong direction.
As someone who practices a form of journalism, it certainly makes me a little anxious when I fly to other countries.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it also might make me anxious upon returning to Canada. Like,
which should not be an anxious feeling.
No. It's like I crossing a border should not feel like a threat to your safety.
No.
Yeah. Like, especially crossing back into Canada should not feel like that. Should feel like you're getting back home from our perspective. Yeah. Like, he may not be Canadian, but still he should feel like a welcome guest. Yeah. Like, and if you do need a secondary inspection, that should be along the tone of, sorry, sir, we need to clear something up. Like, say a name is shared with somebody you get what I mean? It should not be a weapon for political enemies. Like,
like I say, I've done secondary inspections before, and like,
I understand security in an airport. Like, I'm not naive. Like, we all remember 9/11. Like, it's plane hijackings used to be common before that too. Like, I'm not opposed to having like a metal detector at the airport. Like, I'm not opposed. You get what I mean? But like, you cannot weaponize people's like perfectly legitimate political activities, including working for the United Nations. Like, that's another thing. It's like, is Canada seriously now taking the perspective that we are going to harass members of the United Nations and their staff when they come to this country? Because that's a direct violation of the UN Charter. And I regret to inform Canada, we do not have the military to resist the peacekeeper invasion.
Well, I think that, and you can even go back to like when Canada stripped funding from the UNRWA. Yeah. Like, I think once you start attacking UN institutions like that and start saying that, some of these aren't legitimate, that it does open the door for more stuff like this.
And that gives me my big thing as when it comes to my identity. Like, of course, I'm Canadian. I'm proud to be Canadian. I like being Canadian. But first and foremost, I understand that I and all other human beings have a higher responsibility to the world. Like, to the human being undivided by borders, like of infinite skin colors. Like, you get what I mean? Like,
at the end of the day, we're internationalists.
Right. Yes. Like, Canada is a part of the world, and I have my Canadian identity in as much as it is compatible with having a human or Terran identity. Like, you get the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. It may be a bit too utopian for some people right now, but like, give it another couple 100 years.
One world government we'll have eventually.
Yeah. We'll have one world government once we're on to a second world. Because we'll never have one government, but we'll have one government for the world when there's another world to fight with. Once we're on the moon, there's going to be trouble.
And it'll be just like how it is now, where that one world government gets blamed for all the actions of the individual governments themselves. Just like our provinces.
What slurs do you think they'll come up with for people who live on the moon?
Who knows?
We gotta call them loony.
Yeah, loonies or something like that.
Yeah. Someone in like 2125 is going to listen to this in their history class and be, that's where the bigotry started.
Well, I guess, it started with Futurama.
Yeah. We're whalers on the moon. We carry our harpoons.
Oh, man.
All right. Moving on from a less depressing topic than the fall of Canadian democracy and freedom of speech and border trouble, to another depressing topic. This one's even more depressing. Psych, Tricked you. From Alberta, from CTV News, former Chief Minister of Medical Officer of Health, Dr. James Talbot, says Alberta needs to address the root causes of measles outbreak. Yes, Dr. James Talbot has talked to Michael Higgins at CTV News about Canada's loss of measles elimination status, and the fault is mainly two provinces, Alberta and Ontario, which are both really, really struggling with the vaccination rates. I've written a column about this recently, folks. The column was titled "Dipshit Morons Bring Measles Back to Canada." People seem to agree with that title, but no, it's seriously, it's like, let me put this very simply. Measles is a horrible disease that can either kill you or permanently damage your body in a myriad of ways. Brain damage is just one of those fun ways, or that of any child you're pregnant with if you have a uterus. And also, even if you survive the measles infection, it clears out your immune system's memory of every other disease you've ever had, which means you are essentially immunocompromised for several years until your immune system relearns all of the diseases in the world, which makes you much more likely to then die of something other than measles after having measles. Essentially, think of it like temporary HIV. Fun, right? So this is horrible, but, good thing we invented a vaccine for measles, and not just measles. We also vaccinate against mumps and rubella, which is the German measles, the three of those in one vaccine, or depending on which vaccine you get, you can also get varicella, the chickenpox vaccine in there too, MMRV. Canada has the MMR, the MMRV. We've got the three of the four. You're good either way. You're going to just get your kid vaccinated against the diseases, because if you get them vaccinated, they'll mostly be fine. But if not, here's the problem. Vaccination is not an individual choice, as you may well know, Matt. There's something called herd immunity, because some people don't have functional immune systems, but also even if you do, and even if you do get a vaccine, not every vaccine is perfectly effective. Some vaccines, they make it less likely when you're exposed to the virus in your body that it will infect your cells. But if there's a 90% protection, eventually, if you're exposed enough times, 1 in 10 might happen. If you go, you folks understand at home. It's only a 10% chance maybe, but give it enough times and statistically it may happen at least one of those times, and one is enough. So the idea of herd immunity is that because when you're vaccinated and you don't have the disease, you're less likely to spread it to other people because you have less of the virus in your body. Herd immunity threshold is the percentage of the population we need vaccinated in order to prevent spread of a given disease. For measles, that threshold is above 90%, somewhere between 90 and 95, actually. What that means is that if 9 in 10 people getting vaccinated for measles may actually not even be enough. We need more than 90%. And that's where it gets very clear that it's not an individual choice, because you cannot just let your one asshole on the block fuck up everything for the whole community and then we're all getting measles because one. And that's a very uncommon, it's not commonly understood about vaccines, but that needs to be explained. They only work if all of us get them, or the vast majority of us at least. So and this is Dr. Talbot goes over this very clearly in the column, actually, Matt. The interview. They talk about the 90% of kids under the age of 5 threshold, and he complains that Alberta will boast about how many shots they're giving people, and Danielle Smith says she's doing all she can, but Dr. Talbot says very clearly they're not talking about how close they are to the 90%. And north central Alberta and south Alberta are at about 50%, which is way away from there. And So, Matt Kercher, for our no prize question of the week for pointing out the obvious, do you think people should vaccinate their kids against deadly diseases?
Considering I just had my kid vaccinated 2 days ago, yes, you should vaccinate your kids against deadly diseases. Take it from someone
Congratulations.
who's had a
Yes, it's the right
take it from someone
answer.
who's had a deadly disease.
Oh, it's no. So, what your he got the flu shot and COVID shot the other day?
He got flu shot, COVID shot, and then he got one other of his just I think it might have been actually MMR that he got. He got an MMR booster.
Fun.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I know sometimes they've been delivering the MMR and the chickenpox one separately because there's slightly less inflammation of something. It doesn't really matter. They're both perfectly safe, and you can get, and also you can get the separate MMR and chickenpox shot in one appointment in each arm.
Yeah.
So you don't really need the combined vaccine with both of them in. But also, if you do get the MMRV vaccine, that's all four in the one. Don't worry about it, folks. Your doctor knows best. If your doctor or your pharmacist is giving it to you, it is approved by Health Canada. Hopefully.
Yeah.
No, if you're going to a licensed doctor or pharmacist. Yeah.
It's incredible that we're at this state that we have just experienced a global pandemic that technically you could say is still being experienced in some capacity. And we're falling behind on measles, mumps, and rubella. Something that we had a hand on for years, for decades.
No, literally, in fact, measles was eliminated from Canada.
Yeah.
It was gone. And now we have brought it back, as I said in my own column, literally because of dipshit morons like who have now brought back a fucking plague that like permanently brain damages people or like makes their immune system completely dysfunctional. Honestly, I'm of the opinion that people shouldn't actually have a choice when it comes to vaccines. No. Like, I think they should literally, if you refuse to go to the appointment, they should, like, hunt you down with, like some sort of secret agent who shoots you with a vaccine dart gun.
I don't think, I think if you're unvaccinated, you shouldn't be able to operate in public society like we normally do.
I kind of liked when we were doing those vaccine passports during COVID.
I did not mind
and
that
I actually thought we should do that during flu season for the flu vaccine forever.
Yeah, like I don't want to be in a restaurant with a bunch of people who are carrying contagious diseases. I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah.
And I am doing my job as a member of society and getting myself vaccinated. If you're not doing your job as a member of society, because let's be real, as a member of society, you have, yes, benefits, but you also have responsibilities.
Yes.
This is a responsibility that we need to do.
And
like, people need to do this, or people are going to get sick and die.
I've mentioned this before, but my middle name, Abraham, comes from my great-grandfather who fought for the Red Army and World War II and was a Soviet Jew. But my first name comes from his son, who died at 2 years old while he was off fighting that war when he and his mom were in a refugee camp in Kazakhstan. And the thing was, it was from yellow fever, and there was a vaccine for yellow fever that had been invented in the 30s, actually. So, but the problem was it just wasn't available in a meaningful way, like not to poor Jews and that in Kazakhstan and the Soviet, not in that part of the Soviet Union, and not to us. Like, so it was frustrating. Like, it was. I mean, it's incredibly frustrating to learn about because, I mean, not just to learn about, but now I see, like, this obviously, like, my family always gets vaccines, like, we always trust our doctors and take it seriously, so the idea that with that family history and with my namesake, and then I see these people who refuse to vaccinate their kids against the same diseases because they think they're, like, special, they're better, like, it pisses me the fuck off.
Well, like, me, I'm a childhood cancer survivor, right? So, like, I have had all sorts of stuff thrown into my body. I have had stuff that is like its goal is to wipe everything out, cancer and blood cells combined. It just cleanses your system.
No, yeah, it's like cancer patients are like the definition of immunocompromised.
Yeah, and so not only that aspect of it, but like I have had just all sorts of hell thrown into my body, right? And I'm still here. I'm still walking. I'm still talking. Yeah, I had reactions to some stuff. I wouldn't get it again if I had a reaction to it, right? It's normal medical stuff. But through the point being, through the whole process, I trusted my doctors. They kept me informed of the whole process. They let me know what was going on, and I got through it. And you're telling me that you can't go and get a little needle in your arm for something that's been around for probably, 50, 60 years at this point? 70, 80 years at this point?
It's like
you can't go and get that little vaccine? I could go do all that stuff as an 8-year-old kid, but you can't go get a little vaccine because you're scared?
And that's probably as good a time as any to end this second of the third headline topics with a quick plea to the audience. Folks, vaccines are available for the seasonal flu and for COVID now. Please get the updated COVID and flu vaccines. You can get both of them in the same appointment. I went to my pharmacist the other day. In Ontario, you can get them even if you are not under OHIP, even if you're not a citizen and you don't have an OHIP card. You can still get the COVID and flu shots in Ontario. So please go to your nearest pharmacist. Please get both of them because COVID has mutated. It continues to mutate in public, and as a result, like the flu, we will need updated seasonal vaccines to keep on top of it. It's not a big deal. It just means that this is a second part of we now have a second seasonal vaccine essentially, and that's okay. I'm not upset about that at all. It's like, honestly, if we could get even more vaccines for some of the stuff we aren't can we get a human Lyme disease vaccine again?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy we had a vaccine for Lyme disease and then got rid of it. Like, that actually really pisses me off. But yeah, please vaccinate yourself, your kids, and your pets. Moving on to our third and final topic of the day, going back to the CBC for a local story in British Columbia from Christian Pass-Lang, Ivan Angelovsky, Jordan Pearson, and Eric Sesno. MMA gym owners and coaches ID'd at secretive neo-Nazi event in British Columbia. Experts says event exemplifies worrying overlap between martial arts and extremism. So, Matthew, it appears that a bunch of neo-Nazis are forming fight clubs in British Columbia so that they can do the totally not gay act of grappling with each other while talking about how they need to kill all the gay people while not being gay themselves totally. Not at all.
Well, simultaneously talking about how powerful all the gay people are too, and how they actually run and control the world.
Right,
but they're weak enough that they can take them.
Yeah, classic fascism. The enemy is so weak that we need to get rid of them, but they're so strong that we also need to get rid of them.
Yeah,
many such cases.
Yeah, no, it's it seems like this has kind of been becoming a thing recently, actually, with the fight clubs. This isn't the first time I've seen this. I don't think this is the first time you've talked about this either.
No.
About the fascist fight clubs that we're starting to see pop up across this country. Does it surprise me that it was in BC? No, it does not. Does it surprise me that it was in Vancouver and not somewhere like, say, Kelowna? That surprises me a little bit.
I'm sure. Listen, it's a very diverse place, British Columbia. Racists can live in Vancouver just like anyone else. It's a free country.
It's just when you just talking about BC, like the more further the interior you get, the further away you get from the coast, the more kind of conservative, hard right you get.
Yeah.
So you find a lot of like far right people will live like out in the interior and stuff like that. But they're also here.
Sort of like when in California, people are like, "Oh, it's California. Everyone in LA and San Francisco is left wing," and I'm like, until you get to North California, and like it's like I always tell people to watch The Fabelmans, which is Steven Spielberg's autobiography, changing his family's last name. And like literally in Arizona, he has a nice, happy Jewish childhood. And then the moment they move to like North California, like suddenly he's getting like the shit beat out of him. And like people at his high school are like, "Why won't you apologize for killing our Christ?" And I'm like,
or it's
like, Like,
Or it's like Oregon, right? Like you've got Portland, which is probably one of the most left-wing cities in the entire United States of America, and then you have the rest of Oregon.
yeah.
Um,
Like,
so BC is kind of like that. Like BC is like on the coast. When you're on the coast in Vancouver metro area, like that is a very kind of liberal, left-wing kind of vibe there. The further you get into the interior, into the north, the more conservative it gets, the harder right it gets. Like the closer basically you get to the Alberta, the more you start to see nationalists out there. And Vancouver Island is kind of like a mix of both. So I'm not surprised to see that a lot of the fascists that went to this thing actually did come from Vancouver Island. As you and me were talking about a little bit in the break there before, one of the gyms, the Foundry, is in a town that I grew up 30 minutes from.
right.
So it's a problem that this is becoming, and as they said in the article, they're having success. They're having success in recruiting.
Yeah.
And I'm
And
I'm generally not too sure what the answer, what the kind of left wing counter to this is.
we need to beat the shit out of some of them.
Well, yeah, punch a Nazi.
No,
That's obviously
yeah. I don't even mean that facetiously. I mean you can only try and talk people like it. No, as a Jew, it is not my responsibility to have open dialogue with these people. They want to fucking kill me.
Yeah, no, you're
it's
right.
like, I want to just clarify for people, when we say neo-Nazi groups, one of these groups is called Exiles of the Golden Age. This name comes from a passage from neo-Nazi book The Lightning and the Sun, written in 1958 by Savitri Devi, who dedicated the book to Adolf Hitler. And folks, again, let me just read you this dedication he wrote to Adolf Hitler so you can understand just how Nazi this Nazism is. To the godlike individual of our times, the man against time, the greatest European of all times, both sun and lightning, Adolf Hitler, as a tribute of unfailing love and loyalty forever and ever. And one of their ads also for this group, which seems to have taken their name from this book, also took that against time quote, inviting people to a conference from their group for Men Against Time. So, like, yes, they're very transparently ripping like Nazi ideology and Nazi quotations out of books written by, again, men who put direct dedications to their novel, talking about Adolf Hitler being a tribute of unfailing love and loyalty.
Well, they post swastikas on like their Instagram pages and shit like that.
Yeah,
like there was a picture in the article there of them posting like a swastika as like a recruitment thing, and it's just. Yeah, no, they're Nazis, folks. Like they're Nazis.
No, but like literally, like actual, just not unapologetically, like they're Nazis.
If you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance these people want to cause you harm.
Yeah. So, like, folks, as always, I link all of the articles that we talk about, like, in here. So I am encouraging you to read this piece, because if someone you know is in one of these groups, or say a young teenager of yours is trying to get recruited by one of these groups, like, please intervene. Like whether it's an adult and you need to call the police because you're worried they might hurt somebody, whether it's your kid and you think that you need to intervene while you still have the flexibility to intervene with them as a child, like, please take this seriously, because like these are honest to God Nazi fight clubs that are just organizing themselves in random gyms and MMA centers all across the country. And like they'll just portray themselves as being about fitness, and then like once they get you there and once they think that you're like-minded or friendly, like, and they'll pre-vet people to make sure only white people come, like then they start pumping the master race bullshit. So please take this seriously. And again, if one of your kids seems to be wrapped up in some of this shit, please, for the love of God, take it seriously before they hurt someone or get someone hurt themselves. This is upsetting. This is really concerning. It's like someone watched the movie Fight Club and said, "What if we destroyed society in that real way?"
No, take it seriously because they're taking it seriously.
Yeah. Like
they are looking at this as a serious political movement and a way to achieve their goals. Take it seriously.
They are doing like training routines and regimens like in order to create essentially armed paramilitary groups.
They want to recreate the SA.
Yes, they want to have violent power and to use violent power. So again, please look into this and all of the other content provided by the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. But yes, these groups like the Wolves of Vinland, the Exiles of the Golden Age, all these other chuds. The Second Sons, which is literally just stolen from fucking Game of Thrones. Like, I just have one final thing I want to say to all of you. You're fucking losers. Your ideology lost and we killed all of you. And if you try to resurrect Nazism, we'll kill you again.
Follow your leader.
Matt, thank you so much for joining the program today. It has been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully next time the 3 headline topics won't be quite as depressing and horrifying.
Yeah, well, that's kind of just the world we live in nowadays, isn't it?
Well, it is the reason that I am getting tired. Or my Substack is.
I was going to say, I thought it was the reason you were getting tired because it was getting pretty late out.
Yeah, well, that too, but I'm tired for many reasons. Like, Nazis are just one of them. Like, Nazis, climate change, border police, the measles. Fun episode, eh?
Yeah, it was great.
Anyways, thank you once again, Matthew Kercher, a political commentator and activist, for joining the program, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jake. That was a blast.
Thank you. Matt Kercher, everybody. And that'll do it for this week's episode. Thanks once again to Matt Kercher for joining us again this week. Next week, we'll have a new guest who hasn't been on the show before, so that will be a fun on a bun evening. Thank you, folks. Have a great rest of your day. Cheers. This is the end of the show. Bye.